and welcome to the 88th episode of Recluse Horror. This is a daily horror movie review podcast. With me again is Sam.
Hey.
And he is trying to make me laugh when I'm trying to record silence.
I'm trying to breathe. It's hard breathing super quiet. Try it sometimes.
I do it every episode.
So do I. Perfectly.
So just a little background on the project. Back on my birthday in April, I decided I wanted to watch and review a horror movie every single day. I have done so for the past 355 days. I think yesterday I might have said 364 days. Incorrect. That would make today the last day, and it is not. Oh, and before the podcast, it was text reviews. That's why there's only 88 episodes, despite my having done it for 355 days. So today we watched one called Don't Look Away from 2016, which is not to be confused with Don't Look Away from 2017, which I reviewed back on episode 73. Different movies. So Sam, what did you think about Don't Look Away from 2016?
It's not great.
It's not great.
It's not great.
Has a lot of different problems. I mean, honestly, if I'm looking at it that way, the problems aren't super bad problems, but there's just a lot of them, to me at least.
Like all the things wrong with short films, this has.
It kind of does.
It has maybe not the harshest version of that.
Yeah.
But it has so many of those.
Yeah.
So then it's like, oh, like, I really, like, it's not the most inept
No.
short film, but there's so many shortcomings.
Yeah.
That most short films have that this has. So it's like, I don't want to say, like, it's terrible, which, I don't know, I didn't enjoy it too much. But at the same time, it's not like it has so many blaring problems.
Yeah, it's not something that is so bad it makes you want to yell. It just has all these... It kind of reminds me, if you're one of those people who just, like, you have one of those days where, like, your alarm doesn't go off, so you wake up late, then you forget to grab your keys, and then, you get to work 5 minutes late, and your boss is totally fine. They're not going to fire you or anything, but they're kind of like, dude, what the fuck?
Yeah, you can't put your pants on right.
Yeah.
Or your arm gets stuck in your shirt when you're putting it on. Your teeth feel funny when you brushing your teeth.
Yeah.
Or, like, your head's sore when you're combing your hair.
Yeah. You accidentally stub your toe when you're trying to get somewhere quickly.
This is that of short films. Short horror films.
You run. You try to get to the bus stop, and it's leaving 2 minutes early.
Yeah.
Not you were late. It's leaving 2 minutes early.
For no reason, your arm feels funny.
Yeah. Yep. This is the movie version of that person, that poor person on that day, where like every little thing goes wrong. The Murphy's Law of movies and people is what we're talking about. Now, honestly, I don't think literally everything went wrong with this, but yeah, there was a problem with pretty much every aspect that I can think of. What did you think about the acting?
There's not much of it. It's essentially silent.
It is.
Short film.
Yeah, pretty close to it at least.
But what acting there was fine. It's mostly just one person essentially.
Yeah, and their reactions to things.
Yeah, which are a little weird. That's one of my biggest problem with not necessarily the acting, just the reactions of the character.
So I actually thought her reactions kind of bugged me. Now, mind you, yes, her actions also bugged me.
Right.
But like her
motivation,
her emoting, her facial expressions and stuff like that, to me, they bugged me. They didn't seem like
anything. Yeah, they seemed really dead.
Bland and dead. Like, I know she doesn't have to, like, humans do that mostly to communicate things to other humans, but you still do it when you're by yourself. At least I do.
Especially in an extreme case.
Yeah. Yes, especially in an extreme case. It's like a reaction, you know, unless she's somebody who, like, doesn't have facial expressions in real life, like, you know, some people kind of don't. It's, you know, it's a problem for some people. But if that's the case, then that should be put into the movie.
Yeah.
But yeah.
But it like, at a point, it did feel like that.
It didn't it?
They're like, oh, this is like, the twist of this is, this person doesn't show facial expressions.
This person has, like, Asperger's or something. It
Yeah.
doesn't even have, like, basic levels of...
That was going to be the twist at the end.
We ruined it, except for that it never happened.
Yeah.
So, before we get too far into anything else, I meant to get to this before. How would you synopsize this?
It's a movie, short film, I mean, about a room and texting.
Yeah, a lady, this woman, it seems like it's her boyfriend, but they technically don't ever say that it's her boyfriend, but is out of town, and so she's staying there while they're out of town.
It's her uncle.
You're gonna say it's her uncle that she calls Babe?
Wants a selfie from before she goes to sleep.
Okay. All right, family. Her creepy uncle. Yeah. Like,
I'm sure it's her boyfriend.
But anyway, so
whatever.
Yeah, yeah. There's no reason to believe it's anything other than that, but like it could possibly be like a girlfriend, like, "Hey, babe,
send me a cute selfie before I go to sleep." Yeah. Is that something girls do?
Yeah. If they're like, "I miss your face," which was literally what, like, I think at one point somebody said. So anyway, yeah, she what?
Nothing.
I've never asked somebody for that, but people have said that to me, and I'm like, I don't take pictures.
Gotta stay off the grid. Gotta keep moving.
That's why my profile picture is from like 6 years ago on my personal account.
Gotta keep moving, gotta stay off the grid.
Gotta keep moving and stay off the grid. Yeah, I'm actually one of those doomsday preppers, if you guys didn't know. Did I not mention that on the podcast before? I'm one of those crazy doomsday preppers. If you listen to the
podcast, you can tell how not great you are at prepping, so I can't really take it that serious as one of those. I got you, huh? Got you for that one?
Burn!
That's how you know it's a real good burn, when the person you burn laughs at how pathetic they are. That's how you know you're a real pro, like me.
That's why I wanted to do daily ones, because then I have an excuse to have a crappy podcast.
Yeah, now that
you try to spend 4 hours a day on a podcast when you work a full-time job.
I don't even want to spend the amount of time we already
do. Yeah. All right. What the hell were we talking about before this? That I'm a doomsday prepper?
Yep.
Okay.
No, just about the movie's premise.
Oh, right. Yeah, so she's
yeah, explain as much as you want.
Yeah.
Because I'll give the whole thing away, because there's not a lot to it.
Yeah. She's house sitting and starts to think that basically somebody is in the house with her or something like that. That somebody is stalking her or is in the house or something like that. That's as much as I'm going to say about it.
Okay.
So, let's see. What did you think about the lighting?
I was actually just thinking this in my head.
Uh-huh.
And this is going to be about more than just the lighting.
Sure.
I either really like or really hate the overall look.
Uh-huh.
Because it has no style whatsoever.
Uh-huh.
But in the idea that, like, it's trying to seem, like, embedded.
Yeah.
In the like, scenario. Mm-hmm. That it comes off as very, like, there.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, just, like, not natural lighting, but what the type of lighting would be.
That would be in a room this, like that.
This sort of room. It's not, like, overly done.
Mm-hmm.
No, it's, like, not done at all. It's very primitive.
Yeah.
So I guess I'm just trying to decide if I think that worked for the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Or worked against it, because at one point it makes it seem more shallow that way, but on the second hand, it makes it seem more realistic that way.
Yeah, I get that.
So I don't know. So I'm kind of up in the air, I guess, with this whole thing.
I totally see your point on that one. There's definitely some shots where I feel like they could have used, like, I like the idea of using the realistic lighting where it's not going to be super bright and it's not going to be super, perfect lighting. But there are definitely a couple of moments where she spent a long time in one position where I feel like they maybe should have enhanced the lighting to make her face look less flat. Not that she has a flat face, but if you're lit, if you know anything about lighting, whenever you light somebody, you want to light from two angles, usually like just to the left of them from the front and just from the right of them to the front, because that creates shadows that show the features of their face and basically show, like, she does have a nose. I assure you she has a nose. If you go straight flat on, you don't necessarily get those same shadows, and it makes everything look a little funny and flat. It doesn't really give you any angles to work with. So, That's kind of what I felt like for some of the shots. Like, if it was just, like, a thing where she's turning around or she's walking, I would totally be fine with that. But there's a few points where she's, like, sitting in the same position for, like, 2 or 3 minutes, and I'm like, this lighting is wearing on me.
Yeah.
The other thing but again, the naturalistic lighting is definitely a good way to go for a story that's kind of like this. The other thing that I would say about it is when they turn out the lights, it looks terrible.
Yeah.
Both the level of light that's in the room making it hard for you to see things, but not in a way that seems realistic to life. But also there's a moment where they have like this weird blue light, and like it's not lit blue, but like they turn off the lights and it has this really weird fade, and then the color turns blue.
Yeah, like a night vision.
Yeah, kind of like a night vision, but like blue, and it's like it kind of pixelates or something.
Yeah,
too.
It looks like night vision.
Yeah. And yeah, it's not night vision, but it kind of looks like night vision. That was definitely something that they should have tried to work around. They may not have realized until after they got to the editing room that it looked that way. And that would be something that would be really hard to correct, to be fair. But that I didn't think looked very good. Again, neither of these are problems that are like, I hate this movie. But they were legitimate problems that can be addressed.
Yeah, and that's a problem. There's a lot of little stuff like that.
Yeah.
And when like it was like 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Is when all that little stuff is adding up.
Right.
To it, and just like, well, all that little stuff for 11 minutes.
Yeah.
It just doesn't add up.
I think it's
too
9
much.
minutes and something.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does add up. You're not intentionally creating a tally in your head. Like, I don't do that when I watch movies, even if I'm reviewing. I don't make a tally in my head. But it does start to add up and pile up when you have all these tiny little problems. Just like that person whose day. Just like all these little tiny things that are going wrong until you're like, no, this day is shitty. It's not just a weird couple of things.
Because otherwise it wasn't like too bad. Like I was thinking it was just going to be set up for like a jump scare.
And it did seem like it was going there.
It's not quite that. No, but so many of these short films are like, oh, we'll just keep building. There'll be a jump scare. There'll be the end of the movie.
Yeah. Yep.
This is close to that, but not that.
Yeah, that jump scare, and then it doesn't fade to black. It cuts to black, and then credits. Yeah. It's so common in these short films, so it is nice. Actually, the one that I reviewed today or yesterday.
That's what happened.
No, it was like finally like there's a kind of decent ending that I didn't see coming, and I felt like the last 10 that I've seen
were the
other one where it's not necessarily specifically that, but it's like there's no ending on this movie. So this one at least did actually like kind of try to build in a movie and build in an ending. It had a beginning, a middle, and an end. Whether they made sense or not is like totally secondary. To me at least. There are some things that don't make sense in this movie. But I did appreciate that it didn't just do that.
I kind of want to talk about those, but that's spoilers probably, right?
Yeah, it's spoilers. Those things are kind of silly. There are silly things in this. That's as much as we can say about that. What would you say about the behavior of the main character?
That's what I'm talking about.
Well, okay. Like we said, she thinks that there might be somebody in the house with her, or somebody stalking her, or something like that. She's not sure exactly what's going on. Samuel, if you're in somebody else's house, you have another house to go to.
Yeah.
You go home, right?
Right.
You, a grown-ass man, you go home.
I always want to go home.
Right?
Sorry. That was our whale dying.
That was our whale in the ceiling.
That was dying.
I wonder if that read. Okay.
Yeah, I don't want to talk about it too much because I'll just completely
right. I mean, but that's
spoil
the bare
what
essential
happens. But yeah,
right.
there's
is go home, like go home.
There's always that thing in horror movies where they're like, why don't they just leave? Why don't they call the cops? Why don't they use their cell phone? Why don't they whatever?
Yeah.
And there's not a like in a lot of especially modern movies, they give reasons for these things why they don't.
Yeah, they try to justify it. Yeah,
this doesn't do that at all, and it's very hard to get over.
Yeah, it really is. And it's not level of it where it's just like so tiresome that I feel like I want to turn off the movie. But it is like I was yelling at the TV.
Yeah, about it. Yeah,
like go home, just go home. You have another home. If you are stuck somewhere where this is the only place where you can go, and it's like raining and storming out, then fine, call the cops instead. But otherwise, go home. You don't come back. You don't stay there. You don't, whatever it is. I don't even know if she came back, or it wasn't clear whether she came back or she stayed there the whole time of the movie. But either way, it's just silly. I would leave. That's it. So beyond the behavior and the lighting, what did you think about the filming?
It was okay. Like, I don't think it was great.
Pretty straightforward.
Yeah, pretty straightforward. Like I was saying, I think the whole look was pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
Which was good if that's, that you're going for that, like, basic.
Right.
Like real embedded-ish type of, like.
Yeah.
This is what this stuff looks like. This angle helps it look normal.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, it was fine. I was fine with it.
I thought it was fine, too. There's not a ton of camera movement, as I recall. But it was all pretty smooth,
I think it was mostly stationary.
I think it was mostly stationary, too. But the angles were nice.
Yeah,
they weren't the wrong angle. There was nothing at the edge of the frame, like I've seen a few times recently, that's, like, emphasizing, like, how much shakiness there is. I didn't notice any of that. What did you think about the set design?
There was none.
Yeah, I would say that there was none, and there doesn't necessarily need to. I've seen people who have rooms that are that plain, who have houses that are that plain, and that's fine. But with me, the one note that I would make, that bedding was a little girly for a guy.
Oh, really? I thought it was very grandma-y.
Well, yeah? You thought so?
Yeah.
I just meant the colors.
Oh, it looked like one of those blankets that everybody's... I guess only Mexican people's grandmas have.
Huh.
But it has the lines on it,
The lines on it? Huh.
Yeah. I don't know.
Like that one?
Different than that one, but similar.
I'm pointing to a physical blanket in there. Okay. No, to me it looked like something that you get from, like, I don't know, Bed Bath and Beyond or something. Like, just, like, not a real nice bedding thing that you chose. It was just like, this was on sale. That's what it looked like?
It looks like something somebody got from, like, the swap meet to me.
Really? Yeah. Maybe you needed to look at it
Maybe
closer.
I wasn't looking that close. That was literally the only set dressing, though.
It was. Yeah, everything else is, like, pieces of furniture. There's some other set dressing in that one place, but...
Mm-hmm.
But beyond that, there's not really anything. What did you think about the effects?
They were bad.
I thought the first few were acceptable. They weren't great, but I was like, okay. And they were smart enough to not show them for a long time, and then the last one was, I thought, just really bad.
Yeah.
The very last effect in the movie was exceptionally bad. Like, it was worse than any of the
biggest
other
problem
stuff.
with not having something stylized, and trying to get for that real look when something doesn't look real,
it stands
out, and that's really the problem with the effects.
Yeah.
That they couldn't get it to look real.
Yeah.
So, you can't have it both ways, I guess, is my point.
Yeah, it is kind of true. Well, and I'm assuming there was no specific attempt to try to make it look natural. I think they just didn't have a lot of equipment to do the lighting and stuff.
Yeah, I'm sure. It is probably, like, super low budget, if any budget at all.
Yeah.
So that's another thing. Like, I can only be so hard on it.
Right.
In that respect. Like,
yeah.
The writing wasn't too bad.
The writing wasn't too bad.
Some of the phraseology I liked.
Me
seemed
too.
Natural, seemed good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Seemed appropriate. At least the wording and...
The wording and, like, most of it, the whole thing is done through text messages, pretty much any communication. And, like, there wasn't one text message that they sent that really felt off to me.
Right.
Like,
it seemed like no one would ever text that.
Yeah.
And I'm sure I text things that no one would ever text. But none of these felt that way.
No, yeah. Yeah, it seems more realistic than
my texting somebody.
Oh, definitely more than yours. So yeah, that is a very good a very good point. And I've come across a lot of, like, really bad dialogue in some of these. I think this is probably, and mind you, nobody's actually speaking it, but this is some of the most natural text dialogue that I've seen in any of those films. So that is done really, really well. Both of the characters, text in a way that totally makes sense for the circumstances that they're in, other than that bitch won't leave. So, is there anything else that you wanted to talk about, or anything else? I can't think of any other aspects that I really wanted to bring up. There were a lot of those problems, which is why it's easy to bring up.
There's not too much more I could even say.
Yeah.
Other than getting
the story itself.
more into spoiler stuff. Mm-hmm. But yeah, so.
Yeah. The story is frustrating in that the don't leave factor, but that she won't leave factor. But beyond that, I don't really know of anything.
Yeah.
There's not really anything else to pick apart about it. I figure, as far as horror movies go, this is not. There's no stretching of the suspension of disbelief beyond what a normal horror movie already does.
Yeah.
So that's kind of good. It doesn't try to take you that far out of that.
Yeah, it's not the worst, like, that would make you angry that it exists.
Yeah.
But it's definitely not something that really, like, you need to watch.
Right. Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I would say the same. Like, I don't think anybody really needs to watch this. If you stumble across it, you may as well stick around to the end.
If it's something you're into.
Yeah, yeah. I did think that the last couple of minutes, some of that was interesting, and it wasn't exactly what I saw coming. Like, most of the film is not terribly unpredictable, but that particular part of it, I was like, oh, that's kind of interesting. Like, and then, there are other parts about the ending that are less good. But yeah, I don't know. There were some things in the ending that I found pleasant. Like, again, just didn't see him coming. I was like, oh, okay. That's kind of neat. Yeah. Is that it? Okay. So you can find this on the Buddy Booth YouTube channel. Yeah, YouTube channel. Buddy Booth is the director of this. Definitely could use some better equipment, not his fault, obviously. And maybe a little more daring cinematography, but this isn't really necessarily the story to have done it, especially if you don't have lighting, because you kind of need both, one to do the other. But beyond that, like, I didn't really find any problems with the directing.
Yeah, to be honest, like, in that respect, it seemed pretty solid and competent. I think a lot of the shortcomings come from budget limitations and
yeah,
stuff like that.
Yeah, like pretty much every problem that we talked about, with the exception of her not just leaving immediately when stuff starts getting weird.
Small problems, yeah.
Yeah, our stuff that it's like, okay, well, they didn't have the equipment to do the lighting. Right. Okay, well, they didn't have the equipment to do better shots. It's better. And honestly, if you have to err on the side of, like, either we move this by hand and it looks terrible and shaky, or we leave it in a basically fixed position as far as the camera is concerned, like, leave it in the fixed position. And it's not for the whole
relative,
movie.
But yeah,
well,
kind of.
And they do have other cuts. Like, they do move the camera around. It's not completely stationary for the whole thing.
You don't want the whole thing to be stationary.
No, because that would be terrible. I watched one of those the other day. It was not good.
Yeah, it's very dry.
Yeah, but so, like, yeah, again, like, it may have been a little bit bland, like, in as far as the camera work is concerned, but it's better than having bad camera work where you can't get it to move smoothly or, like, at the right speed. And the lighting, again, like, when they turned out the lights, that stuff, they don't have the equipment to control that. The effects, they don't have the budget to do better effects. All of these concerns, like, they're small compared to, like, other problems in other movies, because this is all budget related. Yes, maybe they could have, maybe looked a little bit more cautiously about things that they weren't going to be able to achieve, but it's also things that you don't necessarily realize getting into like one of your first productions. And I'm going to go ahead and assume this is probably a lot of people who worked on this, assuming there are more than one, and the actor and the director, that it's probably not something that they would be able to foresee on their very first production. They're probably new. But yeah, honestly, as far as first tries go, I'd say it's pretty good. If we're assuming that this is a first try, I did look up Buddy Booth on in IMDb, and on IMDb he had only this movie. This is the only thing that came up. Again, it's not totally accurate to short filmmakers and short films, but this is the only thing listed, so it very well could have been the first thing that person has ever directed. So. Anyway, so that's our review of Don't Look Away from 2016. And for anybody who's wondering about my feelings about it, I would say, since they have the same title, I figure I can compare them. I would say that I probably think that the 2017 one, the one that I saw before, is better in certain aspects, but I think story-wise this one was a little bit better. It played out a little more interestingly in the final act, whereas the other one had better first and second acts. So, yeah, that's pretty much it. And that's our episode. Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this podcast, please rate, review, subscribe, whatever it is on whatever site that you found us. If you would like to help out the show, the best thing that you can do is to share it with someone that you love or someone that you think will enjoy the show. If the person that you're trying to share it with does not have the same platform as you, we are available on YouTube, Player FM, Stitcher, Apple Podcasts, Podcast Addict, and pretty much any podcatcher out there. Or you can reach out to us on social media at Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, or you can email me at reclusehorror@gmail.com. So, Samuel, what's your rating for Don't Look Away?
I give it 1 awkward text conversation.
1 awkward text conversation. Okay. All right.
If you watch it, this is usually how my conversations go when I text people.
I'm going to give this one 6.5 markers that are running out. Markers that are running out, yep.
Pens that you pick up that don't work?
Pens that you pick up that don't work. That works too. You could do that one too. Yeah, that's what I'm going to give this one. So yeah. Is there anything else that you wanted to talk about? No? You didn't want to talk about eyeballs? Or glitter? Or trees? Samuel.
Yeah.
Say goodbye.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.